Welcome to class. Today, we will continue from where we stopped at our last class. We will then start with chapter 4 of our textbook. In this chapter, we will look at a number of ASP.NET Server Control classes that can be used to build more interesting and sophisticated web applications than we have been building to this point. The server control classes that we will describe in this chapter are the calendar class, the checkbox class, the radio button class, the file upload class, the hyperlink class, the image class, the image button class, the image map class, the rectangle hotspot class, the link button class, the list control class, the list item class, the drop down list class, the list box class, and the panel class. Calendar class. The calendar class displays a monthly calendar that can be used by an end user to select a single date or a range of dates, e.g., the entire week or an entire month. By default, a calendar class displays a Gregorian calendar, but other calendars can be specified. Also, by default, a calendar control displays the current month of the current year. In terms of appearance, a calendar control displays a title that includes the month and the year, links for moving backward and forward to previous and future months, headings for the days of the week, and an array of selectable dates. The calendar class contains myriad of formatting properties that permits us to customize the appearance of a calendar control. In addition, there are a number of properties that permit us to show and hide the various parts of a calendar control. The calendar control has a lot of properties, methods, and events. We'll just look at a few in this class. First day of the week. This gets or sets the day of the week to display in the first day column of the calendar control. Next month text. This gets or sets the text displayed for the next month navigation control. Previous month text. This gets or sets the text displays for the previous month navigation control. Selected date. This gets or sets the selected date. Visible dates. This gets or sets the date time value that specifies the month to display on the calendar control. Now, let's write some codes. Launch your Visual Studio 22 or whichever version that you have installed on your system. I presume you should have Visual Studio 2022 installed on your system at this time. So we click on New Project. It loads up the template for us. Now we are looking at ASP.NET Web Application under C#. So we try to look for it. There you go. This is ASP.NET Web Application, language C#. So we select it and then we click on Next. We'll name our project this time around Calendar Control Class. Leave every other thing as is and click on Create. We'll use the empty project template. Uncheck Configure HTTPS and click on Create. Now this is going to create for us an empty ASP.NET C# project template. Now that we have our project created for us, we are going to create a new web form. So right click on the name of your project here, right here in the Solution Explorer. choose Add and go choose Web Form. If you cannot find Web Form in the list here, you can choose New Item and then look for Web Form in these templates. Click on Web Form, give your web form a name. I'm going to name it My Calendar. My Calendar. Okay, and then I'll click on Add. And this is going to add my web form to my project. This is it here. And these are the default code loaded for me by ASP.NET. Now we're going to write some codes. We'll write our codes inside the div. As usual, we're going to drag our calendar control from our toolbox right here onto our web page. Okay. By default, ASP.NET names our calendar control calendar 1 and also enters for us the run at server, which I have told us it's very, very important that you have that there. All right. Let us split our screen to both design view and also source view. So we click on split here. Now, as you can see, we have a calendar on our page. We're going to modify this code so that we can test some of the properties that we've already talked about in our previous slides. We're going to first of all rename our calendar control. I can see that our property window is not here. To launch that up, we are going to click on View and we'll click on Property Window. And our property window is now here. So now that our property window is here, we are now going to change this ID value to cal date. So I can do that right here in the property window, cal date. So we have it here. And now we're going to be adding some properties to our calendar control. But before we further edit this calendar control, let us add a label at least to tell our user what this calendar control is meant to do. So to do that, we use the label control, put it at the top of our calendar control, and you can choose to take out the ID because we're not going to actually do anything with the label control, but we'll leave the run at, and our text label, the text property of our label control will then be changed to order date. And we will set font bold property. We apply the font bold property and set it to true so that the text is bold. And then we can add a break line here, so every other thing after this goes to the next line. Let's refresh our design view. As you can see, we have it here. Okay, so let's get going with our calendar control. Now we're going to apply a property first day of the week. We can do that from our property window, I believe. First day of the week, you can see the property here, and we're going to set it to Sunday, and that has been added to our code. Next, we are going to add next month text. So we scroll down to where we have next month text. By default, the ampersand GT and semicolon will give you this angle bracket that we have, but maybe that's not what you want, so we can set it to next. You can see it has changed here. Now let's set the previous month text as well. So we can come to previous month text, prev month text property, and we also set that to prev. All right, you can see that it's right here. Okay, so let's keep working with our calendar control. I'm just going to move this down so that we can see everything on the same screen. I mean on everything at once on the screen. Yeah. So we are going to add an event to our calendar control, and that event is on selection changed. We want to do something when the selection of dates changes. So we can come to our code here, we put in there, and we say on selection change. So we have it right here, press enter, equal to we are going to click on create new event, double clicking on it or clicking on it once. So we're going to double click on this to create the event for us. So you can see the event name, cal date underscore selection changed. All right, now let's go to our code behind file, right click and save view code. We can now see our event here, our event handler here, which has been created for us. We go back to our web page. You can see on our calendar that we have the prev, we have the next, we have the name of the month and the year. Let's run our page to even see what we have first. Click the run button. So this is our calendar, right? So let's close this. Now we need to do something with the events that we created here. All right, before we start to code in our code behind file, let us add another label below our calendar. Now this label, we are going to name it LBL date. LBL date. We want to use this to display our dates. I'm going to take away the text property because I don't need it to load anything for me when the page loads by default. So I'll refresh this and we have our LBL date here. You can choose to put a break here just so that everything displays well. Now let's go to our code behind file, view code. This is where we begin to code something to happen when we load our page, when we click on something and all that. So we want our calendar control to select today's date by default when the page loads, okay, which means that the selected date for our calendar control should be today's date, the current date for the day you are loading the page. So how do we do that? We make use of some of the properties or methods that we have already discussed. Name of our calendar is cal date. So we have cal date dot the selected date property, okay, equal to date time dot, sorry, not dates, not data bind, date time dot today. So this code will select today's date as the selected date for our calendar, and into our event that we created, we are going to then program that our label, the LBL date, should display the date that is selected. So LBL date dot text equal to cal date, the selected date. All right, so but I'm not using dot to string here. So cal date dot selected date dot to short date string. That's what I want to use. Open bracket, close bracket, and then your semicolon. Now let's check out what the result is like. We'll click on run. So as you can see, this is our calendar, and today's date is Saturday 3rd February. Let me select another date, Thursday 15th of February. You can see our label as displayed to the date that I selected, 14. Alright, I can go next. March, April, May. Selected date in May 29th. And date is changing. Alright, so that is how your calendar control works. Bear in mind, you can format the calendar control. So let's get back to our web page. This is our calendar control. To format this calendar control, make it look different, click on this smart tag that is here, this arrow, click on it. You see auto format. Click on auto format. These are some of the themes or schemes that you can use for your calendar control. Let's start from below. Colorful. This is what it's going to look like when you apply it. Colorful 1. This is what it's going to look like. Classic. This is what's going to look like. Professional. This is what's going to look like. Professional 1. This is what's going to look like. Simple. This is what's going to look like. And when you remove formatting, it looks default. So I'm going to choose simple. I just love the simplicity of it. I click on apply and OK. My calendar has changed. Let's load this up in a web browser. You can see calendar has changed. The format has changed. Looking more professional right now. Let's close our browser. So we have come to the end of calendar control. You can try other properties that we have here at your own spare time. Try different formatting at your own spare time and see what develops. There are more things that you can do with your calendar control. Thank you for watching.